Hey VFam, this is Earl, and today we are going to go through the InBody app and how you're going to use that to track all of your body composition scans you do at VeloFit. So if you don't have the InBody app already installed, go to the Google Play or the Apple Store, download that, search for InBody. It'll have the white icon with red InBody written across. Once you install that and you open for the first time, it's going to ask for your phone number. Go ahead and put in your phone number that you use whenever you do a scan. At that point, it's going to ask you to enter your email address and verify that email address. Go to your email, click on verify, then you can come back and create a password and log into the InBody for the first time. The first thing it will do is it will download all of your data that you have taken from all your scans the VeloFit, and it's going to come up to the dashboard, and that dashboard is going to show three numbers from your most recent scan, and that's going to be weight, skeletal muscle mass, and percent body fat. Now, these are three very important numbers we use to track as we go through. The first one, weight. Now, the one thing I want to show you is below the numbers you're going to see a below average, or an above average. And that's basically on the average of what they're looking for. And for weight, it's based on height. So you kind of need to take that number with a grain of salt. The more muscle you have, the higher that number is going to be, and it might put you in the above average category, which is not a bad thing if that is muscle. Below those numbers, you'll see a historical graph of all of your scans for what you have selected above. So it's showing all of the weight values for the scans in the past. And then that second one, if you click on that, that's skeletal muscle mass. That is the muscle and the water in the muscle around your bones and joints that we're going to be able to increase and as we go through resistance training and our VeloFit workouts. That number there, so it shows a number of pounds. To really know what your range is, that average range is you'd have to divide that by the weight and come up with your percentage of skeletal muscle mass. And it is a little bit based on age. As you age, that average that you need goes down. However, the range in totals around 26 to 33% for women, around 31 to 44% for men. So that's sort of where that shows average range. If you are in those numbers, those scales are a little tighter based on your age. And then this last category over here is percent body fat. That is a percentage. That's the number of pounds of fat in your body divided by your total weight. And that average range is going to be 10 to 20% for men and 18 to 28% for women. So that's just wanted to explain the average ranges there for each of those categories. So that's going to show those three numbers from your most recent scan as a dashboard. Now the second tab over there, that detail, this is going to show you the detail of your most previous scan. And if you want to go back and look at the detail of any other scans, you could click on that date up top and pick any of the dates in there and choose that scan. So at the very top, you're going to see an InBody score, and I want to explain this number. So this is a number that InBody calculates. It calculates it based on average weight and your skeletal muscle mass and your body fat mass compared to what the average is based on those scales of we went through before of your percentiles that you should be in for body fat and skeletal muscle mass. So the baseline is 80. So if you're right in the middle, let's say if you have that exact weight, if you have if you're a man and you have 15% body fat and about 40% muscle mass, then that number is going to come out and be an 80. And as it's above 80, that's showing you have above average body composition, and If you're below 80, then you're trying to work up to 80. And then you can see right beside InBody score there where it has the +1. That's the change since your last previous scan. So in this case, the scan before this was 76 points, so it's 77 this time. So this means that you've gone up by 1 since that last scan. This second category here is that segmental analysis, and that's going to show your lean body mass, which is everything except fat. It's going to show that in your each of your legs, arms, and your trunk. And that it again does that same percentile based on those averages, and in this case 100% is that percentile. So pretty much if you are above 100, you're going to be above average, below 100, and that range really goes from like 95 to 105, I believe, percent will put you in that average range. This next category down is your muscle fat analysis. So this those three numbers that we're concentrate on: weight, skeletal muscle mass, and body fat mass. And then again, each one is in those ranges based on those categories we've been using. And whenever you line those up on a graph, one above the other, it's gonna either, if you look at those lines, they're going to either form more like a straight line, an I as they call it. If that weight and body fat mass is larger or above average, more than that skeletal muscle mass, it'll kind of like make a C there, because the one up top and bottom will be out further, the one in the middle will be in further. And then if it's that opposite, if the skeletal muscle mass is high compared to the weight and the body fat mass, then it'll make kind of a D. And that's what that CID is down below there. And it'll tell you, it'll have in a shade there. In this case, it's an I. It might have a C there or a D there as a type, and it will give you a little explanation of what that is there. As we scroll down, you're going to see that obesity analysis. That's your BMI, which is just based on your height and your weight. So we do not worry about that number too much. We do look at that percent body fat, and that is where we want to get it in that range of 10 to 20% for men, 18 to 28% for women. That next number down, body water analysis. So that is actually showing in liters. In order to come up with that average, see where you are in that average range, you'd have to convert liters to pounds, divide those pounds by your total body weight, and you'll come up with a percentage. That percentage we want to be between 45 and 60% for women, between 50 and 65% for men. The more muscle you have, the more water you'll carry as well, and you could see there it'll show basically where you are in that range there. This next one down, the basal metabolic rate, we talk about that a lot. That's the amount of calories or the amount of energy your body burns on a daily basis. In this on this screen here, it shows it in kilojoules, which if you want to convert that to calories, you divide it by about 4. If you divide it by 4, you're going to be close. I think it's 0.238 is the conversion factor. In any event, the more muscle you have, the less fat you have, the higher this number is going to be, the more calories you burn, because muscle burns about 60% more calories than fat as you exercise and go through your daily life. And then body composition analysis, it comes up with a skeletal muscle index, and again, this is a number it calculates to just show you if you have enough muscle mass overall in your total body. For men, want that number to be above 7.5, and for women, that number to be above 5.6. What you'll also see here is you can view your actual printout. So for each of your scans you did, you could go in here and you could view and print out your scan from that time. And if you see in this one here, it actually shows you that basal metabolic rate in calories. Um, so that gives you a better idea how many calories you burn a day, because we don't really talk in joules. So that basically brings you through the detail. You could look at each of your scans. Over here on history, that's going to show you your last so many scans of all of these values we kind of talked about. You could scroll down and look at those numbers. And then it shows you the last so many. If you actually want to see a graph of all you've ever done, you could click on that and it'll show those that graph over history as well. The last thing I want to show you is go back to detail, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see an in-body test guide. With this, it's going to kind of show you what you should do to remind you before you take a test, kind of how you should do it to make sure those numbers stay consistent throughout your history. So that first one's an empty stomach. Tells you the reasons for that, but we ask you to not eat like 2 hours beforehand for that, and also not have caffeine. Um, you should not have to go to the bathroom. Having that water in your bladder actually will affect some of those numbers. Wear light clothes. You shouldn't do it right after exercising, so you should scan before you exercise. That's because you have increased blood flow from your workout. And you shouldn't take a shower right before, because that will usually it increases your body temperature, especially if you take a hot shower, which then also will impede those values. And then the other thing for women, um, it's the numbers can be skewed a little bit during menstrual periods. So we say you should still scan, but just know that those numbers may be off a little bit, and then come back into normal afterwards. And then, of course, during taking the